everyone, it's Lisa from the blog farmhouseonboone.com, and I am up here in my boys' room and we are making some progress on the makeover that I told you guys about a month ago. And today I want to show you how we planked their popcorn ceiling. Our old house came with all the popcorn ceilings in every room. I am very afraid of the asbestos that could be in them, and so I definitely don't want to risk scraping them. I know I've been told that you can get it really wet and scrape it off, but just to upset that does not seem like a good idea to me, no matter how you do it. So I've never wanted to scrape them off, although I do not obviously enjoy them. So this to us is the simplest solution, and it's inexpensive, and of course I love the way it looks because it kind of has that shiplap look. The supplies you'll need for this project are 11/32 inch width sanded plywood, 18 gauge brad nails, a nail gun and air tank, a nickel for a spacer, and then of course some white paint or rubber paint you choose. We started by going to our hardware store and I got 5 sheets of 11/32 inch thickness, 11/32 I guess you would say, sanded plywood. We had the workers there cut them in 6-inch strips. Now this is the same solution we use to shiplap the wall in our master bedroom and then also to do the ceiling in the girls' room. It just cuts so much time off the process. So for each 4-foot by 8-foot piece of sanded plywood, you end up with 7 6-inch strips, and the reason for that is each time they cut, it shaves off a little bit, so the last strip is about 4 inches as opposed to the 6 inches that you need. For our project, we needed 5 pieces. The ceiling is 13 feet long, so we used the 8-foot piece that we didn't cut, and then we put on a 5 and like a 1/4 inch. Ours is like 13 1/4. It's wonky because it's an old house, so I'll show you how we dealt with that. So you end up needing 2 strips for each of the lengths of the ceiling. The one that we cut down to 5 feet came up with a 3-foot leftover piece that is pretty much just unusable. Because of the width of this room, we needed 17 across and then 2 per, so I needed 34 strips total. And so we got 5 sheets because 7 times 5 is 35, and we didn't have much left over. We decided to paint ours first because my husband thought that it would be pretty hard to paint a ceiling. Instead, he just decided to take them out and paint them right there in the garage. Made it a lot easier. We started by putting an 8-foot strip. We started on the window side in both rooms, and then a 5-foot strip so that it staggered the long piece and the short piece, and the long piece, and the short piece. In between each row, we added a nickel spacer. So we just would put the nickel in and then move down slowly as we nailed and got the nickel in. Now this is a 2-person job. I had to help my husband with this one because one person needs to hold up one end and the other end, and then you need to kind of switch off with the nail gun and the nickel, because it, all the way down. So my husband did not just go out and cut a bunch of 5-foot strips. If you live in an old house, I would recommend you also don't do that, because we find that in between each time we're working with 5 1/10, 5 1/4, all the way up to 5 3/4 because of the bowing of walls and just things that happen as a home ages. So we actually stopped in between. We put up the 8-footer, which is the length the plywood came in, and then we'd measure and we cut exact for the 5 end portion. Put it up, put the 8-foot up, and then again measure and continue on. When we came to the light, we cut a 4-inch square out of the board that would be next to it, because the fixture that I got for this has a 6-inch circle, so I knew that a 4-inch square would fit nicely inside of it. For the girls' room, it didn't quite work out so nicely. We ended up having to cut out of 2 boards because it landed in between 2, but it still worked out pretty easily. Now when we got to the door, we had a little bit of an issue. This happened in the other room too. Because of this old house, nothing ever is perfectly square. In fact, our trim kind of went in a bowing fashion over, very obviously. So we had to cut some custom strips for the end. We measured one end and I got, I think, 5 1/4 inches. And then as we got to the door, it was 4 1/4 or something along those lines. So what we did is we made a mark at the 5 1/4 on one end, 4 1/4 on the other, and we just made a slanted line. It's the best we could do for this room. It actually ended up fitting like a glove. It's not something my eye is drawn to because it fits so well. Now, if you're in a brand new house, you don't have that wonkiness, or if you add this before your construction and do it before the trim is up, then it'll be a much cleaner all the way around look. Now, you could also remove the trim. We were afraid we wouldn't be able to find this exact same trim because it's old and that it would break. And so we opted to just go with the trim, but it ends up looking really nice and you can't tell. So as far as the nails going in, we just put them in randomly. They're pretty small, so you can't really see. Now, if you want to be more strategic about every few inches doing it, that's totally fine. We just hit it up as many times as we could. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed that tutorial. I'm gonna leave a link in the description below for all the supplies, the color paint, the nailer we use, the nails, all of that stuff in the description below. If you want to know exactly what we use, you can check that out. Also, I have all of the dimensions listed in the description box below and a post on the blog. You can probably hear Micah. I put him over in the crib hoping he would be good for this. And he's been pretty great, but you can definitely hear him. The rest of this post is also on the blog with pictures from the girls' room when we did it, as well as dimensions. I will link the SHIPLAP post we did below. The total cost for this project was around $125. It was $20 per sheet of plywood. We used 5, and then also, of course, the paint. We already had the nail gun. We've been using that forever. So if you're buying that fresh, obviously that's going to add to the project. Well, I can't wait to update you guys on the rest of this boys' room makeover. I will leave a link in the description below for the original video where I talked about the plans for this. It's taking sort of, come here, buddy. It's taking sort of a different direction than I originally told you. The colors are the same, But I ended up figuring out how we could fit more than one bed in here instead of bunk beds, because I've always wanted bunk beds, and I finally thought of a solution. So I actually ordered some beds yesterday, and I think it's going to turn out really cute. I cannot wait to get it going. But this is update number 1. We obviously, if you remember, we painted the walls here, and we've done the ceiling, and I've got the beds and the rug, and I have plans for the bedding, so it should be coming together pretty soon here. Well, if you're new to my channel, please hit that subscribe button. I make 2 new videos every week on food from scratch, natural living, and our handmade home. Thank you so much for stopping by the farmhouse. Micah, hey, smile, buddy boy. There you go.